Alright, so I want to talk about screwdrivers today, but before I get started, I just want to say that I am by no means a professional, and what I mean by that is that I don't pay my bills with hand tools or with tools or power tools or anything like that. Now for work, I do have to occasionally use tools to fix things that, or go to a job site or a customer site and make a repair of or something of that nature. But that's by no means my job description, and I don't do that every day. In fact, I do it very infrequently. Usually, it's a matter of convenience when that type of thing comes up. So just getting that out of the way, all of these recommendations on screwdrivers, which is what I'm here to talk about right now, are going to be from that perspective. Basically, I'm a semi-advanced DIYer. I fix my own stuff around my house, and sometimes I'll occasionally help out relatives, that type of thing. But your skill level is going to depend on my recommendation here today. So what do I mean when I say that my recommendation is based on your skill level? I really like to start out with these multi-bit screwdrivers. I have two examples here. These are really great to keep around for just general repair, putting together like flat back furniture, or changing batteries and electronics, that type of thing, putting together kids' toys. These are nice to have. Typically, you're going to find a few different sizes of standard and Phillips bits and tips. So this end is called standard, and this end is called Phillips. You also see these called as flathead. That's not really correct, or slotted. But yeah, and so anyway, the other thing that you'll see with these that's pretty handy is this is a 5/16 nut driver, which is a really common size that you're going to find in like general appliance repair. Now this screwdriver example right here is 5/16 on both ends. These tips are interchangeable. The shafts are the same size. But what you will find if you look around is a lot of these are going to have two different sizes. Both this one would be a 1/4 inch right here, and this one's 5/16. You can see these tips are a little bit different size, and so that you're going to encounter that a lot of times with sheet metal screws. These are really commonly found on like appliances around the house, so like your air conditioning, your washing machine, dryer, dishwasher, things like that. These are all over the place, and so if you're ever getting into general repair for something like that for yourself, you're going to run into that. So it's really handy to have like a 5/16 and a 1/4 inch nut driver around for that. In fact, you'll see like a lot of guys, like HVAC guys, will only carry those two sizes because they're so common for the type of work that they do. Oopsie, there you go, I'm backwards. So if you're going to get one of these, I think they're really good to have like in the kitchen drawer, or if like you're moving off to college or something like that, you just want to have a basic screwdriver on hand to do most things. These sizes are going to be really common for most things around the house, and so I really like these if you're just going to have one screwdriver. And I do like multi-bit screwdrivers. You know, more commonly you'll see screwdrivers like this, like in history, like your grandparents and your dad. They're going to have a lot of screwdrivers where they're kind of dedicated tip size. These are great. I think that they are kind of cumbersome depending on how much space you have. Like if you're gonna have like a big garage and toolbox or a shed or something like that that you work out of, you have a lot of space, then yeah, you gotta have a set of screwdrivers like this. But if you're just gonna have like a small toolbox or like a pack or a screwdriver in your car, then I think you're really gonna want to look for multi-bit screwdrivers. I do also want to point out one thing about these types of screwdrivers is when you get into like repair, sometimes you'll encounter a situation like this where there's a screw in this case of this bubble toy that you can't get in, okay, with a bit screwdriver. So you can see this one is the right size, it fits right in. I can turn this screw, back it out, I'll leave it in there for now. But an example would be something like this, where this is a bit screwdriver, and even if I had the right size tip on here, it doesn't really, like I can't get in, you know, because the shaft of this screwdriver is going to be so much larger than the shaft of the dedicated correct size screwdriver, which was this one in this case. So you can see the difference there. So these, you really do need a set of dedicated screwdrivers if you're going to be getting into these types of repairs. I wouldn't say they're mandatory. If you're just looking to put together a small pack, or you know, going off to college toolkit, I think that you want to probably just start with a multi-bit screwdriver because they're so handy in many different situations. Okay, so I have quite a few multi-bit screwdrivers. I was recently putting together a tool pack, or like a go bag or service bag, and so I kind of like expanded on my collection kind of recently, and I just wanted to talk about some of my favorites and what I found. Okay, bringing in one more here. So this would be like your old school or like classic bit screwdriver, where you're gonna have just the shaft And then the handle, sometimes these are hollow with like a little cap or something you can unscrew, and you can store extra bits in the handle. I do have examples like that, but I didn't pull any out for this. So these are great. The thing that's great about these tips is that they're so universal. Let's see if I have another example, like one like this. This is just a standard 1/4 inch bit. Any size screwdriver you can get this bit for, and so these are really great for that. But they're a little bit prehistoric, or not prehistoric, but like they're kind of outshined by modern bit drivers, where they've gotten a lot more clever about how to store and manage the onboard bits. Something like this, if it did have a cap in the back, they would just be loose in there. You dump them out. Sometimes they have a little holder or something, but for the most part, like, you're kind of picking them out. It's not very efficient when you're searching for the bit size you need. So some of these are ones that I have. Like, I actually want to start with this Wera here. I don't understand why people like these. Wera in general, like, I don't like, the handle is kind of comfortable. I mean, aesthetically, I think it's pretty ugly. The main problem, like, this is, it's kind of cool. They're very expensive for what they are. I think it's like $30. The nice thing about this one is that it just takes regular bits. So if you look, the bits are stored in the handle like this, and so you can kind of select the bit you want. It locks in, and then that bit is retained really well. But the main problem with this screwdriver is this collar. I talked about the issue of like access with like a fat screwdriver handle trying to get into like a recessed hole like this. It's actually made much worse by the collar on this screwdriver. Now, granted, this is a really nice high quality screwdriver, but I just find that I don't actually really enjoy using it that much, and so I don't really recommend it, especially because it's so expensive. This one is a classic. This is like one of my favorites. I've had this for so long. I think I bought this in high school. So I mean, I just had it forever, and this was like my first real screwdriver that I bought when I was going off to college, and it has a really cool party trick. Again, it just uses standard size bits, which are great because these are so common and they're not specific to the screwdriver. Like, if you look at the example I had earlier, like one of these guys, these screwdriver tips, like, they are kind of common because these screwdrivers are so common, but you see that this is very specific to this screwdriver, and that it wouldn't really work with like a different screwdriver, you know, or something like that. So the nice thing about these universal bits is that they're the most common. But this one is so cool. It's like a pump change. So there's a mechanism inside, and when you pull it back, there's magnets that retain the bits, and then they pump, and then there's this little carousel. And so you can just, the red part here is kind of the pointer. So you can just rock out and select to the tip that you want. So this would be like number 3 Phillips, which is really not that common. Number 2 is your most common, and then probably just like, you know, 3/16, or what is this? Yeah, 3/16 standard tip. These are really common. I like the screwdriver just because it's so fast to change tips. A lot of times when you're getting into repair on something, you find that you're going to need multiple screwdriver tips. So like, you might be going back and forth between like a number 1 and a number 2, and it's just so efficient and so quick to change tips on this. This is originally made by Craftsman. I have seen this screwdriver rebranded, but you gotta watch out for them, because this one, if you look at it here, this is an old one. You can see it's made in Canada. I have never been able to find these made in Canada after this original one I bought. I used to have a Craftsman label right here that kind of turned into like gum and wore off. Eventually I just kind of cleaned it off. I remember that it's Craftsman. It doesn't matter, can't warranty it out anymore. That Craftsman's long gone, and this tool is long gone. This Canadian made one is so much better than the Chinese ones. I have a small one here. This one is made in China. It was originally branded Triplet. Same thing, that could just kind of turn to gum that you clean off. But like, this mechanism itself, I don't know if it's because it's miniaturized or whatever, but it's just less reliable. It tends to jam up, that type of thing. So I really don't like this one as well. And then I know I have encountered other versions of this, the full-size version, that were the Chinese made, and they just really don't hold up. This is kind of a complicated mechanism. The screwdriver was pretty expensive at the time. It was like $20, which was a lot of money when I bought it, like when I was in high school. But I just thought the mechanism was so cool at the time, and really, like, throughout the test of time, my whole career of like being a DIY fixing person, this is still really my favorite screwdriver. It's just held up so well. And even these tips, these are the original tips that came with it, these like kind of chrome tips. And this is the number 2 Phillips, so this is the one that's probably seen the most use. And I mean, granted, I've never put this tip in like a drill and, like, you know, run a bunch of screws with it. They've all just been done by hand. So when you use screwdrivers by hand, they tend to not wear that much. But even that, just saying, this screwdriver and the tips that it came with have held up really well. I picked up this one recently. This is another Canadian screwdriver. This one's called Roll Gear. Yeah, there it is. So this has got like a little collet or chuck mechanism. I don't know the word for it. It's probably, whatever. It's got this switch, and so you can select the direction, and then it uses like some sort of ring gear mechanism as a ratchet, so it doesn't make any noise. And I'm ratcheting. You can see how I'm doing that, and then I could ratchet and pick up the tip and spin it more. This is pretty nice. It was a little expensive for what it was. I think this was $30 on Amazon. I really like the handle. It's like a good shape. And then this mechanism it's okay. It seems like it's strong enough. I mean, like I really haven't overdone it with this. The thing I don't like about it is that this little selector switch, it seems like it wants to be on or off, and it's really hard to like click it in the center so that you lock the shaft. Most of the time I like to just use it like this, or in a situation where like you have a screw that's kind of loose in the hole that you're screwing it into. A lot of times, just even this screwdriver, the back drag of me rotating it is enough to just kind of make you walk in place with that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then if you know, you know what I mean when I'm talking about the back drag issue. This has a lot of tips in it. I really like how many tips it has. They're all like good common sizes. You don't run into a lot of Square Drive or Robinson in the US, but when you do, you need it. It's got Torx, so there's a pretty good selection of tips in here. I don't really like the way these are retained, so you kind of, the idea is you pull this out and then you push up, and then there's a magnet here that holds it so that you don't drop it on the floor if you're on a ladder or something, or even just like sitting here. It's nice not dropping this on the floor when I change tips. I will say that the retention of these is a little loose. I would like it to be tighter. Just the bits in the handle here. So for what it is, it's a really nice screwdriver. I do really like it. A little pricey. I can't necessarily recommend it. If you're in Canada, it's probably cheaper and probably really worth it because this is a great screwdriver. I can't really say much negative about it other than, maybe the price. This one here, this is a Klein. I bought this because I like Kleins. I really didn't need this. I had so many screwdrivers already. This one is a more traditional ratchet mechanism you could hear there. But I just really like Kleins. I bought this for my service toolkit, like when I go out in the field. A lot of the tools in there are Klein. I kind of just wanted them to all match. It's nice that this is 15-in-1, labeled on the end like that. The bits are stored in this little carousel in the bottom here, which is pretty nice. It's fully loaded, and then you got this one here in the tip, and they're double-ended like that. So this is a pretty great screwdriver. I've only used, this is kind of new to me, so I haven't had it too long, but I really like it so far. I like the size of the handle, the grip, the mechanism sounds great. The selector switch, this is a little gritty. I don't know what's up with screwdrivers and these selector switches being gritty or not that great. I would love these to really ka-chunk, into the on or off position or center position. But other than that, I'm really happy with this screwdriver, and it's probably one of my favorites. This is an interesting one. This is this is Teeny Turner. I'm pretty sure that this is actually, I know that this company, MLT Tools, has this same screwdriver rebranded. So I don't know who the original maker of it is, but it's kind of like, you can see it's kind of a similar style in terms of access to the bits. These are great for electronics repair, these really small ones, or eyeglasses, something really small like that. It's becoming a lot harder to repair electronics these days. So many of manufacturers seem to be locking that type of thing down, or like it's difficult to get parts, or everything's all glued together and not designed to be serviced anymore. But for a long time, I did fix my own computers and things like that, and these days it just seems like it's the type of thing that they don't really want you to do anymore. On the topic of electronics repair, I think the best multi-bit kit is this one by Ifixit. A lot of people really like this kit. It's very highly recommended. I'm in that camp of recommending this kit. It has every size. These tips seem to be great. I know that Ifixit does warranty them if you do break one. Granted, electronics, there's not a lot of force or a lot of stress on those screws, or they're not very tight when you're using them, so it's pretty unlikely to break an electronics screwdriver. I've never really actually ever done that, although it's not, like I said, it's not really my profession. I have made a lot of repairs, that type of thing. Anyway, I really like this screwdriver. This is the one that comes with the kit. This is like some sort of extension. Never actually used that. I always just use the tips on the screwdriver. This is aluminum handle. The little spinner cap is really smooth on this. If you don't know the way that you use an electronics screwdriver, typically old timers, the way they recommend it, you're gonna go in and you're gonna make your tiny adjustments like that, or you're gonna be powering out your screws like that. You kind of in the palm and that. So that's why if you ever look at an electronic screwdriver or a screwdriver that's geared towards electronics repair, typically you're gonna see these kind of spinner caps on the end of them. Ifixit also has this plastic one now. Doesn't spin as smoothly, but the cap does kind of come out, so you can store your tips in there. So that's probably why. But this one's not bad. It still does have a magnet. Actually, is it a magnet? Yeah, it's a magnet. So they still have a magnet in here to retain the bits. So that's nice. And the great thing about these plastic ones is they give them to you for really cheap if you're buying parts from Ifixit. Typically, you can get the toolkit thrown in with just the tips that you need for like another $5. And so I always do that, even though I have all of the tips I could ever want. I just like these little handles. I got another one here. Hold on. Okay, so one more electronics screwdriver, or small precision screwdriver, spinner handle. Of course, Klein. I already said I love Klein. This one is kind of like my old faithful, the classic recommendation of just 4 tips, exactly what you need, usually what you need when you're doing these types of repairs. So I like to have this one on hand too. This is handy, and I typically keep this with these. I keep these guys together in like the kitchen drawer or something like that. Other kind of like stubby screwdrivers. On the topic of stubbies, I have some of these. Typically you're going to use these like when you don't have like really good access to get into an area for repair, maybe reaching behind something or underneath something or whatever. So this is a nice one. It takes a like just a standard tip like this, kind of clicks in. Another Klein, handy to have. I like this one. This is just a stubby. I don't have a lot like these. I actually kind of purged my collection recently and got rid of a lot of screwdrivers because I just had way too many kicking around. And I never really used dedicated screwdrivers like this. I always just go for one of these, or this is a really interesting one. I saw this on a YouTube channel, Pocket83, and what he did was he just took a regular magnetic driver that you would put into like a drill bit to hold these bits, and you drill a hole through a golf ball, undersized hole, and then you just kind of press this in with your vise, and it grips it really tight, and you have a really compact stubby screwdriver with a nice grip on it, because the golf ball is actually a pretty ergonomic handle. And you can see it's actually more compact than this real stubby screwdriver. Obviously it's not as compact as like a ratchet or something like that, but this is pretty nice. I made this like just for fun because it's free and I already had the parts on hand to put it together, and since like the day I made it, I actually did use it to change out a seal in my washing machine, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really handy. I actually really like it. Just a little kind of stubby screwdriver, reaching, you're kind of going over something, you're reaching behind, you kind of got to do like this and walk a screw out. Sometimes it's just what you need. All right, so that's it for screwdrivers. Of my favorites, I think that these two are probably my favorites, my go-to recommendation. Also honorable mention of the Roll Gear. These are really the best screwdrivers in my collection. They're my favorite. They're the ones that are really high quality that I use the most. This Craftsman one is kind of limited. It only holds 6 bits, but you know what? It's the 6 bits I use all the time. So I like that. And also, if you had a specific job for a screwdriver like this, you could always just set it up with the tips that you know you're going to need. But reality is, when the ones that I keep in my car, the ones that I throw in my tool bag are these two, because they just have the most tips, and they're really good. And I do kind of appreciate a ratcheting screwdriver at this point. And to be honest, most of us around the house, we don't really use screwdrivers that much anymore. Most of your screws are driven this way or with a guy like this, So as far as keeping like an old hand manual screwdriver on hand, if you're going to use one, I really think a ratcheting screwdriver does speed you up quite a bit. And these 3 are my favorite. Where'd it go? Boom, right there. These 3 are my favorite.